America doesn't just fail to build community by accident. In a lot of places, it's illegal. Zoning codes that make apartments against the law. A wall built through private land at a cost most people never see the bill for. Housing towers built for almost nobody to actually live in. This is a country that had the tools to bring people together and used most of them to keep people apart instead. Suburban hell in most American cities, roughly 75% of residential land, is zoned for single-family detached homes only. Not preferred, not typical. Zoned, meaning it is illegal, by law, to build a duplex, a fourplex, or an apartment building on that land, regardless of demand. Some cities take it further. San Jose zones 94% of its residential land this way. These rules didn't emerge from nowhere. Early single-family zoning was used explicitly to keep certain neighborhoods racially and economically exclusive, a fact confirmed by decades of housing policy research, and the exclusionary effect has persisted long after the language changed. The result is a country where, in most places, it is against the law to build the kind of dense, walkable neighborhood that most other wealthy countries take for granted. Suburban sprawl isn't what Americans organically chose. It's what the law required. U.S.-Mexico border recent contracts for new border wall construction have run around $20 to $24 million per mile. Multiply that across even a few hundred miles, and the total lands in the billions, funded by taxpayers regardless of where they live or how they feel about it. Roughly 60% of the border runs through privately owned land, which means the federal government has repeatedly used eminent domain, seizing property from private citizens, ranchers, and indigenous nations, with compensation set by the government itself, just to clear a path for construction. Environmental reviews have been waived outright to speed the process along, and past sections of barrier have already caused documented flooding damage in border towns on both sides of the line. This is one of the most expensive pieces of infrastructure in modern American history, built primarily to keep people out, funded by everyone, and sited through land most of the country will never see. World's skinniest skyscraper at 1,428 feet tall and as little as 60 feet wide, Steinway Tower on Manhattan's Billionaires Row holds the record for the highest height-to-width ratio of any skyscraper on Earth, 24:1. It contains 60 residences, 60 units, in a city with one of the most severe housing shortages in the country. Towers like this one are built for a specific kind of buyer, often overseas investors or ultra-wealthy part-time residents, purchasing units as assets rather than homes, sometimes leaving them empty for most of the year. New York City has spent years trying to pass a vacancy tax aimed at exactly this pattern, without success. The tallest, thinnest, most engineering-obsessed residential building in the world exists 2 miles from neighborhoods where families are doubled up in one-bedroom apartments, and it was built to hold 60 people who mostly aren't there. Tent City in June 2024, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 in City of Grants Pass versus Johnson that cities can criminally punish someone for sleeping outside in public, using so much as a blanket or a piece of cardboard, even if that city has no available shelter beds to offer them instead. Before that ruling, lower courts had held that punishing someone for an act they have no alternative to committing amounts to cruel and unusual punishment. The Supreme Court disagreed. Cities across the country have since moved to pass or enforce exactly the kind of camping bans that ruling makes legal. The country's highest court looked at the choice between sleeping on a sidewalk and going to jail for it, for people with nowhere else to go, and ruled that the jail part is constitutional. Interchange on the beach, some of the largest, most disruptive highway interchanges in the country, were built directly along the coastline, carving through waterfront neighborhoods, running concrete ramps within sight of the ocean, sometimes within a few hundred feet of the sand itself. Mid-century highway planners treated shoreline property the same way they treated everywhere else, as the path of least resistance, cheap to acquire because the neighborhoods sitting on it had the least power to object. What could have been public beach access or parkland became on-ramps instead. Somewhere in America right now, someone is standing on a beach listening to 8 lanes of traffic instead of the ocean, because a highway engineer decided 50 years ago that the shortest route mattered more than the view. Industrial Happy Meal, a McDonald's French fry, starts as a potato grown on contract from one of a small number of approved varieties, on farms that meet exact specifications for size, sugar content, and shape before the crop is even accepted. From there, it's processed, frozen, shipped, and fried using a system engineered for identical results in Ohio and identical results in Oregon. This is the entire model. Every ingredient, from the beef patty to the bun, is manufactured to a specification tight enough that a Happy Meal in one state tastes the same as one 3,000 miles away. It's not cooking in the traditional sense. It's manufacturing that happens to end in a kitchen. Fast food didn't industrialize food by accident. It industrialized food because sameness, at scale, is the entire product being sold. Off-grid neighborhood Slab City sits in the California desert near the Salton Sea, built on the concrete foundations of a demolished Marine Corps base. No running water, no electricity grid, no sewer, no trash service. Residents haul in everything they need and haul out everything they don't. It calls itself the last free place in America. And for some of the people living there, that's exactly what it is, a deliberate choice to opt out. But Slab City's population also includes people who ended up there because rent elsewhere had become impossible, veterans who fell through gaps in the system meant to catch them, and people with nowhere else that would take them in. Some of them chose freedom. Some of them ran out of other options, and freedom was the story that made it bearable. California's highest-earning bridge, the Golden Gate Bridge, brought in more than $161 million in toll revenue in fiscal year 2025 alone, and tolls have climbed steadily for over a decade, with a new increase taking effect in the summer of 2026, pushing the fast-track rate past $10 each way. Roughly half of that toll revenue doesn't go toward the bridge itself. It subsidizes the district's bus and ferry service, because those systems can't cover their own costs through fares. The bridge that's become a postcard image of California is also a financial patch holding up the public transit system underneath it. Even the bridge everyone photographs is quietly running on a business model that wouldn't survive on its own. If this changed how you look at your own city, that's the point. Like the video, subscribe if you want more of these, and I'll catch you in the next one.